Coach, what does Tamir Robinson bring to USC, and what do you think his best position is?
Yeah, we were excited to get Tamir. That was one of the kind of focus points of the spring portal window there for us, was trying to add a linebacker that had some experience. We knew we had some youth and some talent, but from a depth perspective, we were hoping to add one more guy there that had played some ball, and maybe give us a little bit more of a sure thing in terms of an impact this year. So I'm excited to see him. Obviously, I had a chance to watch him here this summer, watch him run around. He's a big physical kid. He's worked hard to learn our system and get to know our guys, and certainly brings some good experience to the table. So, we're gonna work him. Kind of both at Mike and Will, give him a chance to get a little bit of burn at both and see where he best fits. But been impressed with him so far.
Coach, how do you see this defensive identity? How do you envision it? How do you see it coming to fruition? What are some of the steps that you guys are taking as a coaching staff to ensure that it happens this season?
Well, I think it is. It's really trying to graduate from, drastically improve to really being dominant. And I think that's been the message for our guys is from a mentality standpoint, it's like, be excited about the progress, but don't be near satisfied. And making sure that mentality is in every single thing that we do. And whether it's practice, whether it's workouts, it's making sure that the people that come in new to our program, the new defensive players, some of the new coaches, that they understand their role in taking this unit to the next level. Because I think the excitement is we all sense that opportunity. I mean, with the staff that we have, the players returning, the players we've added, the confidence that was built, like there's a real opportunity here to go do this. And I think not just our defensive coaches and our defensive players, our entire program's excited about that, because that's where you win championships. It is cliche, but it is true. That is absolutely where you win championships. And obviously the excitement is there, and now it's up to all of us to take it to the next level.
If DJ can't play, which would be unfortunate, who's the next man up in card?
Well, I mean, I think that could come about obviously a lot of different ways. We were really pleased with Micah Banuelos the second half of spring. Really, it's kind of the first time in his career at USC where he's been able to stay healthy and have some continuity, and he got better quickly. Tobias Raymond gives us some, for sure, position flexibility. And I think the other guy that really stood out that certainly kind of put himself right in the middle of the competition there to play is Kalen Miller. Kalen's been a program guy for us, walked on here a couple years ago, and has done some really, really good things. So he's certainly going to factor in somewhere in the interior three for us as well. So that's kind of the initial depth right now. We'll be excited to see guys like Makai Sena, Treater, some of those guys here in fall camp that were limited some in spring, to see if they're ready to contribute.
Fair to say that position's where you maybe had the most question marks coming into camp on offense?
It honestly might be tackle, just depth. Because, a couple of our guys like Tobias, like Justin, that are definitely going to play for us. They're also some of your depth inside. So if all of a sudden they have to go inside, it's like, all right, where are you at tackle-wise? So I feel like we probably have more options, probably interior, which is that's not unusual. But I do feel like we have a few, just different chess pieces there. Whereas tackle, if a guy goes down or a guy's got to move inside, it gets a little bit more thin there. So, how that plays out will be intriguing. But, I do feel like we have, 6 to 7 no doubt capable starters, no doubt. And I haven't been able to probably say that at this point, in our time here, with a lot of young talent that we're excited to see what they become here in fall camp and into the season.
Coach, who's somebody that's flying under the radar, or perhaps the national, local media that you're particularly excited about going to fall camp?
Devin Tompkins, I would say, just from what he's become for us, how valuable he's become. He made some really impactful plays for us, especially at the end of last season. And he kind of feels like a guy that's just going to have a big year to me. Prophet Browns, probably those are probably two that really had great springs that I think are going to have a chance to be very impactful.
Lincoln, what is Purdue getting out of Josh Henson, just in your experience working with him?
He's a really good coach. He's a great human being, great person, really good coach. Not a surprise that somebody would hire him as a play calling OC. It doesn't surprise me at all. It's a really good hire. Knows offense. Yeah, obviously strength is in the line play, but has plenty of experience with the skill as well to be able to marry it all together. He'll be great for that staff. Be great for Barry. He did an awesome job for us. I'm happy for him, and it'll be kind of weird being on the opposite sideline week 3.
Speaking of that, that's a venue you haven't been in, and it's a game that's been a couple of Rose Bowls in long past. But how much excitement is there when you get these new opponents, these new matchups, because of your kind of infancy in the Big Ten Conference?
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, that's one of the fun parts is going to these different places, playing these different people, and going to some of these places that our staff and our players have never been. So it'll be first Big Ten game. Be a lot of excitement around it. We're looking forward to the challenge.
Coach, Jamal Jarrett's listed at 360 pounds on the updated roster. Was that the plan, to beef him up more?
Yeah, he might be a cheeseburger or two ahead of that right now. He's a big dude, and like some guys you'd be concerned at that way, but honestly, Jaws, the way he's built, it's pretty unique. He's a massive human being, man, and he's done a good job. He's an eager kid. Has really worked hard. He's probably already one of the more beloved guys on the roster just because he's got a real energy for everybody in the program and really seems like he really wants to be good, and so he's impressed a lot of people. And because he's just one of those guys you see that we had a lot of instances in spring, like when he really goes and he's really confident and turns it loose, like he's tough to block. He's going to be tough to block for a lot of people, just because his size, the power that he can generate is pretty unique. So he's definitely a part of that revamped interior that I know there's just watching our offense and defense compete in the spring, you felt the impact of our interior guys more than in years past.
Lincoln, bringing in Drew Carroll, what made him the right guy, and how did he sort of hit the ground running and connect with you guys?
Yeah, he's been a guy that's just been on our radar screen. You always have kind of lists running of if you have to hire this position at any point for whatever reason, that these are some guys to keep an eye on. So I've been aware of them. We talked to a lot of people just because we felt like we were going to be able to get somebody really good, and we had a lot of guys both in the NFL and college that wanted this job bad. You would actually be surprised by some of the names probably. But as we kept going through it and got deeper into interviews, there's just something about him, his mentality, how he sees not only training, but just kind of helping to build the most disciplined unit that he possibly can. That just kind of captivated us and felt like he was the right guy. And he just kind of kept separating himself, honestly. And then what was cool about True was, we had a initial phone call and then like 2 different virtual calls. And then he was good on the phone call. He was better on the next virtual call. He was better on the next virtual call, and then in person he was way better than that. And he's got a really unique, which I think is pretty hard to find. Like he's very demanding, very demanding, but he does it in a very tasteful way, a very genuine way about it, and it's a cool balance that he has that I think our guys. It did not take long for everybody in our locker room to respect him and what he's here to do. You have somebody there you care about, and 2, but we've had a lot of success together. A lot of success together, and so it was not an easy decision. But I felt like for USC at this time and place where our program was at, that we needed a new voice down there, and we needed somebody with. The emphasis points, like I just talked about, that maybe were just approached in a little bit different fashion, and it wasn't easy to do, but at the same time, that's part of this job from time to time, and happy that we landed on Coach Drew, and obviously, I think ask any of our players here today about the impact. I mean, they'll tell you.
Speaking of new voices, you talked about Mike Leach, who had a big impact on your coaching career. When you're sitting around at home at night, maybe sitting next to Caitlin, watching the Varsity Blues, Longest Yard, what are some of the plays you say, oh, you know what, that looks kind of interesting, maybe we should do that? Does any of that ever come across in your mind? Or is everything strictly what you see on a real football field?
Man, you just never knew what to expect. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably, I've said it before, I think probably the biggest thing he taught me was just don't put limits on what you can do. Don't be afraid to take a risk. Don't be afraid to do things different than maybe what everybody else thinks you can do. And don't take yourself or all of it too seriously. And that's kind of how he lived and went about it. And there's been good things both in life, love, and we were pretty content on being done, maybe getting one more young guy. And then Wayman came across our radar screen from a former contact in the business, and we watched him and we said, look, we may not necessarily need the number, but this guy's a good enough player. We're gonna. Sometimes you kind of bust through your criteria or your numbers when you feel like somebody is good enough, and we felt like he was. And so, just super impressed with him. He made an impact right away in spring. I think he's a very versatile back. He's got a lot of production behind him. He's the JUCO National Player of the Year, and I think the junior colleges have, in the world of transfers, are a little bit more under the radar than they used to be. Because everybody is like, well, I need some immediate help. I should get a transfer, and so, I mean, he had obviously some good opportunities. I'm a little surprised he wasn't more highly recruited, but I'm sure glad he's a USC Trojan.
Coach, what did you learn about managing the travel in the Big Ten? The distance.
It is what it is. I can I sit here and say it was some massive factor on the season? I don't know that I believe that, honestly. Now, are there things that both on our weekly schedule and then when we travel that we're going to adjust and do differently? Yes, there is. They're not earth-shattering, but there are some things we feel like are going to give our team a better chance to play better and recover better, and be ready to go on the road. So that's just part of the challenge in our league right now. We're going to, like anything, we're going to look back at what we did and find a few ways to make it better.
What do you think about college football rivalries and everything? Can you speak on USC and everything that's
I'll probably echo a little bit what I said on the podcast, because the game would still affect seeding, and that's really important, right? So there's still, you get value for winning the game. You win the game and go in the playoff. Well, that's another thing that's going to help you as your seed. So it's great. It just doesn't put you at a competitive disadvantage on access to the playoff. And I think that's the key right now.
Do you think if the College Football Playoff Committee actually said we are going to focus on strength of schedule and not just use the words?
It'll never happen. I made one of the shows today, one of the 74 I've done. They, I gave this analogy. It's all right, if last year after the first game, all right, take our LSU game last year, and you're evaluating LSU and they lose or to a ranked opponent, to really heck of a football game, lose right at the end, all right? So they're 0-1, and somebody else played an FCS team and they won by 31 points, all right? Everybody wants to say, well, it may be more impressive to, play a really good game and it come down right there to the end, and it probably is. But at the end of the day, ain't nobody gonna pick a loss over a win. It's not gonna happen. You can't justify it. People are not gonna look, if they're making a committee decision, are not gonna look at this record versus that record and put the other team in. And we saw proof of it. We've seen proof of it forever. At the end of the day, when it's humans, it's gonna be win-loss record. And that's just not, I just don't think that's going to change. And it's not fair to those people, because how do you make that decision? It's an impossible. We have put some of the brightest, smartest, people with incredible histories in this game. You're giving them an impossible task. You're trying to compare things that aren't the same. And so the only way to do it is either you put everybody under the same, whatever, which I don't know that that's anywhere near, I'm not projecting anything, or you make it to where the conferences can still have kind of their own little individual things like they have right now, and the conferences decide who represents them in the playoffs. Like college football's changed. This isn't the SEC is not the same SEC that it was. You had 2 blue bloods. You know what I mean? The Big Ten's not the same Big Ten that it was. Now everybody's paying players instead of just some people. It's the truth. Really. And again, I'm not throwing shade at people. Evaluating what, going back to these models, and this would have happened 15 years ago. That don't matter because this ain't the same. This is different. And I just think if we want to preserve these things and we want to take the human element out of the decision making on who gets in or not, that's where this comes from. And so it makes a lot of sense. I really hope we get there.
On that topic of
Some ways yes, in some ways no. Depends where you're at. It depends where you're at. If you're in some spots, it was easier to win years ago. If you're at other spots, it's easier to win now.
Lincoln, if the playoff expands and they don't do the automatic qualifiers that you favor, what do you envision a USC schedule in the non-conference being like?
I mean, hard to say. It definitely it puts a different type. I will say it'll put a different type of, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but it'll put all the Big Ten teams in a really unique scenario. Because if we stay it's just us playing 9 in terms of the Big 2 conferences, and it's just us playing 9, our outlook and what we'll need is probably going to be quite a bit different than the others. And that's a little bit the unfortunate part and what we're trying to avoid. So if it happens, we'll deal with it. But I got a hard time believing we're going to get to that. I really do.
Is the only way to save the game then? The tradition of the game is standardized scheduling?
It would help. It would. It's because none of us got in this to try to disrupt traditions or eliminate rivalry games. That's the anti of what we got into this for. So nobody wants that, but we also want to do our job for the places that hired us too. So yeah, it would be a huge step, and I hope we all, maybe it's as some of these things in college football have been withering away a little bit, right? Some of these traditions, maybe it's an effort and a calling for all of us in it to all right, let's do something that's really good for the game. Let's do it.
Coach, offensive philosophy question. When you were at Oklahoma, you played Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's a crazy game.
Yeah, but they keep doing what they're doing. Air Force not going again late last year. But this goes back to Coach Hadfield in the '80s.
Process of trying to keep a class together now versus maybe what it was 10 or 12 years ago.
It's evolved. It was easier, then a little harder, then a whole lot harder, and honestly now maybe easier. Yeah, and I think as we get into the world now of contracts and all these different things, it's maybe starting to get easier in that I think there's going to be a little bit more uniformity. I think there's going to be a little bit more just kind of true typical agreements like you see in any other business enterprise in the world, which I think it's starting to get a little bit easier, and I think it's going to get easier as it goes on. Babysit kids on the way home. The worst was probably right before it went to the early signing period, because then not only you didn't have to just get to December, it was all the way through early February. It was so. Yeah, some of these changes have lessened that a little bit.
Was there anything notable for you last year in being on the same field and coaching on the opposite sideline with Dana Holgorsen? And what do you think about now having his offense on your schedule with him having a full year?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We've coached a lot against each other at West Virginia and then Houston, like we've always found. We were joking at pre-game before the game this year because I was like, what are you doing? Like 2 weeks ago I don't know if you were even there. Now you're here calling plays. We were laughing because we always find a way to end up coaching our teams going against each other. You could see his impact immediately, which was fairly remarkable considering he'd been there 2 weeks. He's a phenomenal offensive coach. That was a home run hire for Matt, and Matt knows it. And I learned a lot from him. he's going to adapt. He's a tremendous coach. So no, that's a really big win for Nebraska.
Coach, speaking of schedule, last year obviously the opener was so marquee here against LSU. This year, opening with 2 non-Power 4 teams, a little bit of more of a ramp up into the schedule. Is that shaping your thinking a little bit in terms of player development and how you're sort of thinking about guys growing in their spots, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways. I mean, the schedule is a little bit different with kind of how it builds up a little bit this year, and so. I don't know that we sit there and do a whole lot different. I just think the season's going to have a different flow to it. And so I'm excited to open the season here at home. I think that's always a great thing for us. And, you know, we got plenty of big games throughout this schedule. So hopefully it gives us a chance to see where we're at there early and make some adjustments and get ready for the Big Ten slate.
Going back to that Notre Dame rivalry for a second, are you at all surprised that there's pushback to not agreeing to a long-term deal when that could potentially put you guys at a massive disadvantage with so many changes and other teams not scheduling a game like that years down the road?
I'm not surprised that there was opinions on it on the outside. I mean, with SC football, there's always going to be an opinion one way or another. And like, I get it. Like, nobody wants to see it go away. Like, me included. Like, I get it. I think most of the people that have opinions aren't in our shoes, though. And most of the people, if you put that same scenario and put it in their own household, would probably think about it a lot differently. So, and we chose, you know, unlike the other side, you know, we chose to just, you know, not sit there and make a big public outcry. We wanted to see how this stuff evolved and have a good, calm head about it, and then get our chance to speak on it at the appropriate time, and that's what we did.
What does that system working look like to you? Does that mean no one's stepping outside of the cap, or is that just something you expect is always going to happen no matter what rules are put into place?
Well, I mean, it's just going to depend on what the regulations are, you know, what type of rules, how they're enforced, how enforcement works. I mean, that's going to be the whole thing, and a lot of it is going to be, you know, what limitations they're actually able to enforce, you know, because I mean, you know, this day and age, everybody's getting sued as soon as they try to put up a roadblock, and so, you know, how all that evolves, I think, will determine how successful this is. But I think it makes sense in principle. I do think they have some really smart people working on it. It's all happening so sudden that it's like there has to be this adjustment period that everybody's going to have to give it a little bit of grace. The media, us as coaches, the players, like everybody's just going to have to give it a little grace if we want to really give it a chance to work.
Coach, another portal angle question. I've gotten a lot of those lately, I know. But in regard to bowl games, and it's hit you guys a little bit, but some other schools it's hit a lot. And I was back in Charlotte, and I asked Jake Dickert about this. Because, you know, Washington State had just their roster wiped out. His suggestion was move the portal to January. But when you've got, like, Marshall had to, like, pull out of the bowl game because they had 65 guys transfer out. It looks like that early portal in December, and the bowl season, not the playoffs, but most of the bowls, it's just not compatible anymore. What are your thoughts? Should there be a later portal? I'm not sure how academically that works, but what's the dilemma there?
Yeah, that's a problem. It's fitting it in academic calendars. You know, you've got some schools on semesters, some on quarters. It's when can I get in a portal and actually go through some type of recruiting process, figure out when I want to go, and then get in school so I can train and go through spring ball and all that. And so that's why even the discussions of possibly, you know, eliminating or moving spring ball and going to a more OTA style practice, it has come about, is to almost help create a portal window and not disadvantage that if you do make the portal window, you know, much later than it's currently been. But no, with the bowl things, it's a problem. I mean, it just is. I mean, we've all dealt with it in some form or fashion, some enough where games have gotten canceled, enough or down to times we've had, you know, we've certainly been a part of this where, you know, you're not exactly sure one week to the next who actually is going to be playing for you in the game. And so, you know, it's now you hate it. Now, listen, there's still been some great bowl games. You know? I mean, there really has. But no, I think figuring how all that fits, the bowls, the playoff, the portal, and then these school windows is the big challenge right now.
You got